I see signs that the attraction of the dollar is slightly eroded, and future will tell whether there is more erosion of that.
Trump's sanctions have created a new global risk. They remind the world of the uncertainty around a financial system controlled by the United States. And the US dollar is at the center of the system. It is the default currency for global trade. Most countries depend on the dollar, and now China wants to change that.
Are you concerned about these actions by Russia and China to establish different reserves and conduct transactions in non-US dollars?
For decades, the US dollar has ruled the world, from oil trade to global debt. But now, even Europe admits that era is coming to an end. The European Central Bank President, Christine Lagarde, has confirmed that the dollar's dominance is no longer guaranteed. At the same time, in Beijing, China's central bank governor declares the world is moving toward a multi-currency system where the dollar is no longer king. What's really happening behind the scenes, and how will it affect Africa and the global south? Stay tuned, hit like, subscribe, and share this video, because what's coming next will change the global economy forever. For almost 80 years, the US dollar has been the backbone of global trade, energy markets, and international reserves. Countries saved in dollars, borrowed in dollars, and traded through the dollar, even for goods that had nothing to do with America. But Christine Lagarde just dropped a bombshell. The dominant role of the dollar is no longer certain, she said.
You have also said recently that you think investors have begun to question whether the dollar would still warrant its status as the ultimate safe haven currency. I mean, the American dollar is one of the strongest weapons, frankly, that the administration has to use. Do you think that it is the rise of cryptocurrency that is most threatening to that, or why are you worried?
I see signs that the attraction of the dollar is slightly eroded. And future will tell whether there is more erosion of that. But when you look at the rise of cryptos, number one, when you look at the price of gold, gold is typically, in any situation, the ultimate destination for safe haven. Price of gold has increased by more than 50% since the beginning of the year. That's a clear sign that the trust in the reserve currency that the dollar has been, is, and will continue to be, is eroding a bit. In addition to that, we've seen capital flows outside of the US towards other destinations, including Europe. So, you know, for a currency to be really trusted, you need a few things. You need geopolitical credibility. You need the rule of law and strong institutions. And you need, I would call it, a military force that is strong enough. I think on at least one and possibly two accounts, the US is still in a very dominant position, but it needs to be very careful because those positions erode over the course of time. We've seen it with the sterling pound, you know, way back after the war, but it happens gently, you don't notice it, and then it happens suddenly. And we are seeing intriguing signs of it, which is why I think that having a strong institution with the Fed, for instance, is important. Having a credible environment within which to trade is important. So volatility, uncertainty, to the extent it is fueled by the administration, is not helpful to the dollar.
The European Union now openly admits what many nations have quietly felt for years: the world is becoming multipolar, and relying on one currency gives too much power to one country. She warned that Europe must no longer be a passive safe haven absorbing shocks from US decisions. That statement alone sent ripples through financial circles worldwide. Meanwhile, in Shanghai, Pan Gongsheng, governor of the People's Bank of China, made his own declaration. In the future, the global monetary system may evolve towards a pattern where a few sovereign currencies coexist, compete, and balance each other. In plain terms, China is preparing for a new global currency order. He pointed to the renminbi's rise. Now the second largest trade finance currency in the world. And the third largest global payment currency.
Trump's sanctions have created a new global risk. They remind the world of the uncertainty around a financial system controlled by the United States. And the US dollar is at the center of the system. It is the default currency for global trade. Most countries depend on the dollar, and now China wants to change that. Beijing is making quiet moves. It wants to push the Chinese currency, the yuan, into the global spotlight. And for this, Beijing has started work on two fronts. The first one is currency swaps. China is talking to Japan and South Korea. It is pitching a currency swap agreement with them. The idea is quite simple: promote the use of the yuan in regional trade. And what is a currency swap? It's basically a deal between central banks. They agree to exchange their currencies with each other, and this helps countries borrow in their own currency. They can avoid using the dollar altogether. China has such deals with many countries, but this one would be different, because Japan and South Korea are strong US allies. They have a close trade and defense relationship with Washington. But they have been hit by American tariffs too. And that has given China an opening. Beijing sees this as a rare opportunity, a chance to move closer to two key American allies in the region, Japan and South Korea. China is pitching the yuan as a more stable option, a currency that is less affected by politics. You see, Trump's trade war has weakened the dollar. It has dropped in value. That helps China make a case for the yuan, and that is the first step in Beijing's plan, using currency swaps to expand its reach. That's the first part. The second front is debt. China is offering cheaper loans in the yuan. It is offering refinancing to existing creditors, so they can convert their debt from American dollars to the Chinese yuan. And how does it help? Well, China's interest rates are lower, so borrowing in the yuan means lower repayment. Lower interest rates, so lower EMIs, basically. Several countries have already taken this offer. Ethiopia is among them. Ethiopia had a $5.3 billion loan with China. They have converted this debt into yuan. Similarly, Kenya has also converted a loan they had borrowed from China for a railway project. By switching from the US dollar to the Chinese yuan, Kenya has saved $215 million in repayment. Meanwhile, some countries have started borrowing directly in the yuan, like Hungary and Kazakhstan. They recently sold bonds in the Chinese currency. Sri Lanka has borrowed in the yuan for a highway project. The loan was for $500 million US. But the debt is denominated in the yuan. Now, so far this year, governments and institutions have issued loans worth 68 billion yuan, which is about $9.5 billion US. This amount has doubled from last year. Every deal like this one means less dependence on the dollar and a stronger role for the yuan. Same for global trade. The yuan's role is rising there too in global trade. It accounts for 8.5% of all transactions now. This makes it the fifth most traded currency in the world, right behind the British pound. The share of the pound is around 10%, so China is closing in. But does that make it a serious challenger to the greenback? Well, as of today, they're far from it. The dollar still dominates global trade. An overwhelming majority of all transactions still happen in the US dollar, so the yuan is not an immediate threat. But it is making strides, and China is playing the long game as always. In June, the governor of China's central bank gave a statement. He made Beijing's intentions quite clear. He said, and I quote, "The world is moving towards a multipolar currency system." He said the world relies too much on the dollar, and he made a prediction that several strong currencies will check and balance each other. Of course, none of this spells good news for Donald Trump. Protecting the US dollar is one of his biggest political promises. But China's latest moves have turned up the heat. The message from Beijing is clear. The greenback is on notice.
Are you concerned about these actions by Russia and China to establish different reserves and conduct transactions in non-U.S. dollars?
So the U.S. dollar is the widely accepted and really the only serious candidate for the world's principal reserve currency, and that's because of our democratic institutions, our liquid markets, the rule of law, and all those kinds of things, and also the fact that the dollar has held its value over time. So other countries who are competing on other playing fields may want to establish different currencies, but really the dollar is the one that's going to be used more broadly in international commerce because we have those aspects and other countries don't.
Pan warned that excessive reliance on a single currency is dangerous because when wars, sanctions, or trade conflicts occur, that currency becomes weaponized. He then announced new steps. With a digital renminbi international hub in Shanghai, and deeper cooperation with the European Central Bank, both part of China's long-term strategy to reduce US dollar dominance. Just days before those remarks, Lagarde and Pan met in Beijing to sign a memorandum of understanding on central bank cooperation, setting up regular dialogue between the EU and China. This is more than diplomacy. It's a signal that major powers are aligning to build a fairer, multipolar financial system. Pan even mentioned exploring the IMF's special drawing rights, SDR, a currency basket that includes the dollar, euro, yuan, and others, as a possible model for a balanced system. Step by step, the pillars of dollar supremacy are being replaced by networks of currency cooperation between Europe, China, and the global South. For Africa, this could be a turning point. For decades, African economies have suffered whenever the US Federal Reserve raised rates or the dollar strengthened. Local currencies fall, debts rise, and economies bleed. But a multipolar monetary system could finally give Africa options to trade directly with partners in Asia, Europe, and the Middle East without always converting through the dollar. Imagine using a BRICS settlement system, the digital yuan, or regional African currencies for global trade. This is not just economic change, it's monetary independence. The question is, will African nations seize this opportunity to redefine their place in global trade, or remain trapped in the same cycle of dollar dependency? The European Union admits it. China is preparing for it. And the world is witnessing it. The dollar's dominance is fading, and a new global currency order is rising. If you believe Africa and the global South deserve a seat at that new table, hit the like button. Drop your thoughts below. Share this video on WhatsApp, Telegram, Facebook, and X. And support Afriscope TV with a super thanks to keep independent voices exposing what mainstream media hides. Because the new world order won't be televised unless we tell it. Disclaimer. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. Afriscope TV does not promote hate, violence, or misinformation. All content is based on publicly available data and expert commentary. Viewers are encouraged to think critically and verify independently.